Japs, new month, old troubles. We're still following the 80th, well, it sounds odd, isn't it? 1940 was a year. This is technically the 80th anniversary of 1940, so I'm going to follow it as best as I can. Excuse me, I'll keep yawning. Rocky Mountain Zinfandel if you're going to Morrison's. Now, nothing as such happened on July 1st, but little things did happen, you might say, that had overall bearing on the Second World War. One is that James Somerville was made commander of Force H, which operated out of Gibraltar, and one of the first things that Force H had to do was rather unpalatable to Admiral Somerville, and that's going to be covered in my next full-length video about Mirza Kabir. Somerville was a First World War veteran, like most of his compatriots, and one of the unsung heroes, really, of the war. That's not to say he should have all manner of plaudits placed upon him, but like most of the leaders in the war, of certain ilk anyway, he did a job and he did it well and never really got shouted about. I'd imagine, without looking, he did a memoir in the 50s, and there were so many of them that did, but Somerville... Force H is legendary in naval history, at least in this country, of course, and they got involved in the Bismarck hunt and were disbanded in 1943. If you watch Sink the Bismarck, by the by, you hear about Force H being involved largely because Kenneth Moore's character, which is fictitious, Commander Shepard, his son is a Fleet Air Arm pilot, a swordfish pilot on HMS Ark Royal, which was the flagship, or at least a key ship of Force H, and they're all there lounging around in their bunks, sweaty as hell because they're at Gibraltar, and then a voice announcement comes over, chaps, we're on our way to help out hunt the Bismarck, and everyone sort of throws stuff at the boy because his father is Commander of Operations, and then you get this shot of what is meant to be the Ark Royal. Now, the Ark Royal of Force H was sunk in 1941, so I forget what, it might be the Ark Royal that came after, but either way, it's a very, if you know your ships, it's a very noticeable difference. At the same time, the Fiji government was formed, or in the sense that Patan moved the puppet government, as it is, or was, to Fiji, and the rest is history. Fiji, even though it's still a town, of course, in France, and I believe they do water, bottled water, the connotations are much like if you said the word Krislin, Krislin being the surname of the Norwegian chap who, was a traitor to the Norwegians and held out the Nazis and all the rest of it. So 2 years of Fiji rule, and as I said in a previous video, the last time technically Britain was at war with France, because Fiji, France, I believe, declared war on Britain after Mirza Kabir, and if they hadn't beforehand, they certainly did after it. And lastly, well, not lastly, second lastly, they are the Luftwaffe bombed Wick, killing a few children in the process, and that is the significance of it, is the first daylight raid on Britain. Not going to be the last, of course. As far as the Blitz goes, we're just under 3 months away from when the Blitz technically started on September the 7th, 1940. And finally, the Mitsubishi Zero enters operation with the Imperial Japanese Navy, aircraft that's going to come to prominence on Pearl Harbor and throughout the rest of the war. Now, without looking, I don't believe it tussled much with the Spitfire in the Far East. It must have done, because of course we had Spitfires in the Far East and no Hurricanes were out there. Unfortunately, my knowledge of air operations in the Far East is a little bit sketchy. But in the film Tor, one of the Japanese, might be Fushido, I forget now, I haven't seen the film for a few months, says when he lands on the aircraft carrier, a Kagi I think it is, it's a shame we can't take this over to Britain and fight the RAF. And it would have been interesting, wouldn't it? Could you imagine if the Germans had somehow imported the Zero? Was it a superior aircraft, the Spitfire? They're roughly on parallel, I think, but the Spitfire comes out on top. The Spitfire is the Spitfire. So We're now in a new month, as I say, a new month of anniversaries. July 1st is when Jersey is now occupied by the Nazis. That leaves Sark and Alderney as the other major Channel Islands to be occupied. Otherwise, it's the lull before the storm. Battle of Britain is a couple of weeks away. We've got Operation Sea Lion a couple of weeks away from being authorised, although not acted upon, of course, and many other things. The beauty of history is that it's always there. The trouble with the future is that we don't know where we're heading to. And at the moment, I take much more comfort from history because you know where you're at with history. But history also shows us where we're heading to sometimes. So thank you as always, chaps, and take care where you're heading to.